Okay, class, welcome to our new unit. Our new unit is solving equations. So for solving equations, what's the difference is that we're going to be using our skills to figure out the value of x. So when you have solving equations, an equation has an equal sign. So we will eventually get things like 3x plus 2 equals 7, and you're going to do your work and you're going to figure out what x equals. That's our whole goal. Our whole goal is to do work so that we can figure out what x equals. What is the value? Okay, so we're going to go and do that to figure out what does x equal. That's our goal. So to do that, lots of different ways, lots of different terminologies and different things like that. But what I like to do is I like to say two things. Number one, I like to say do the opposite. So you do the opposite math operation that you see. Okay, so opposites of positive or adding is subtracting. Opposites of multiplying is dividing. And for us, we also did this one, squaring. Okay, and what's the opposite of squaring? Right, so with the opposite of square, we have square root. Now, we don't really do too much of that. That's more grade 10. But I do want to let you know they are paired up and they are opposites. The last part is keep it equal. So you're going to hear me say that an awful lot. Do the opposite, keep it equal. So in other words, whatever you do to the right side, you have to also do to the left side of the equation. You've got to have a balance. So imagine with a balance, just like an old school balance, right? If you have something taken away from the right side, you have to take something away from the left side as well. Just like if you added something to the right side, you have to add something to the left side. You couldn't leave it imbalanced, otherwise one end goes up and the other one goes down, and that wouldn't be balanced. You've got to keep it equal and balanced. Balancing around the equal sign is what we're talking about. So real quick here, you can probably guess these. And if you're going to guess them, you're going to be done tomorrow. You won't understand what you're doing. You have to show work. Okay? Absolutely must. All questions are going to be this simple, but if you look over in a couple of days, right, all questions are going to be that easy, but all of a sudden, you won't be able to solve something like this, number 7, that's being complicated if you don't know how to do your work for something as simple as this. So make sure you're showing your work. So what we see is a plus 4. So what we have to do is the opposite of plus 4, and that is minus 4. So if we subtract 4 from the left side of the equal sign, then we also have to do that from the right side. So we minus 4 on both sides. That's what I mean when I say do the opposite and keep it equal. So by doing the opposite, we are doing the opposite of the math operation we see. The opposite of plus 4 is minus 4. And we keep it equal by going both to the left side and to the right side. So now you can show your work. Some people like to do a little line. And then the next line of work is x equals -2. Notice how your equal signs line up. You want them to line up vertically to show your work easily so people can follow what you did. Next piece of work, x minus 8. What is the opposite? Well, the opposite is plus 8. So we add 8 to the left side, and then we add 8 to the right side. So what's left over? Well, the first thing you can do is write your equal sign straight below. Then x, because these guys cancel out. So they cancel out, you don't have to write nothing, you just leave it blank. They cancel to 0. Then what is 15 plus 8? Sorry, -15 plus 8. Oh, well, if you're stuck, you can always use a calculator. -15 plus 8, boom, -7. That's your answer, -7. Okay, now the important stuff isn't x equals -7, that's the important stuff, so you know how to answer harder questions. Try it yourself, then press go. What would a decimal change? Nothing. Do the opposite. So minus 1.5. Instead of adding, I am subtracting. And then you want to do a little line, Match up your equal sign straight below, and we have x equals, because this stuff is gone. So it cancels out. We're left with x equals. Then we show negative 2.5 minus we negative 4.0. So if you have a decimal, nothing changes. You just go ahead and do your subtraction like you would. Next one. What math operation do we see? Well, do not look here. That's incorrect. You always look in front of the term to decide what's happening. So you have to see that is a minus 9. Sorry, minus 8. So what's the opposite? The opposite is plus 8. Always look in front. Don't look behind. Always look in front to see what to do. So again, your equal sign lines up. That doesn't change. X stays here. This is all gone, so we don't have to write anything in front of x. Now we go, we say x equals negative 13 plus 8. What's our answer? The answer is negative 5. Took me a sec. Okay. Now, if you had a fraction, you do the exact same thing. You would add 2/3 because you're doing the opposite of the subtraction. So you would add 2/3 to the right side as well. So x would equal 5/6 plus 2/3. Okay, and again, we can do a little sum bar. Okay, and then you would have to get, right, then you would have to finish that off with a common denominator. We're not going to do that because we're not going to look at fractions. But what would be the opposite here of the plus 3/5? Minus 3/5. And so we get a sum line. X would equal, again, notice how I'm always lining up my equal sign. So important. I can't emphasize that enough. We get 5/8 minus 3/5. And again, you would then want to finish that. Now, in a few classes, we'll teach you another method, how to do that a little bit simpler. So that's why I'm not finishing it. Okay? But if you had a fraction, it'd just be like integers. You do the opposite of the math operation you see. Good. Now, what we have here is we don't have adding and subtracting. This is 3 times x. So what's the opposite of times? Opposite is divide. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the fraction division line. I'm going to divide by 3 on the left side, and I'll divide by 3 on the right side. So I'm left with x equals, again, our equal sign matches up. And what is 12 divided by 3? So I get x equals 4. Okay, so the math operation is 12 divided by 3. So really what you should be able to do is do this as your work and then go straight to your answer, x equals 4. You can ignore the middle step. Go ahead, do this question. So I divide by -5, divide by -5, x equals, I go get my answer. And if I am unsure, go ahead, use your calculator. I'm okay with that. X equals -14. Okay, brain first, calculator second. Go ahead, do this one. Divide by -6, divide by -6, x equals +7. Okay, so really quickly, that's -6 times x. The opposite of times is divide. Fractions we're not going to do. Okay, we'll teach you that later. Here we have 5.5 times x. So again, what's the opposite of times? Making sure you divide. And so now that I give you a decimal, you can give me a decimal. So 3.4 divided by 5.5. And now I get this, and then the best way to do that is round that. Actually, let's show the exact answer. 0.618 with the repeat bar over the 1 and 8. And what am I forgetting? That's right. I had a -3.4, which means my final answer will be negative. Don't do these fractions. We're going to teach you a better method in a little bit. Again, don't do these fractions. We'll teach you a different method in a little bit. Now we have a different question here. This is x divided by 5. So we have x divided by 5. So what's the opposite? Opposite is multiply. So to show this multiplication, I like to use my multiplication dot, or I like to use brackets, your choice. So timesing by 5, both sides, timesing by 5, both sides. And that should actually be a negative 5. Mr. Barker was not paying attention. So the left side cancels out. I'm left with x equals negative 50. So you do your multiplication. Okay. Next question here. This is divide by 3. So what's the opposite? Times by 3. And I have to do that to the left side as well. Notice how I wrote it. I wrote these really close together because those are the two numbers that multiply when you're multiplying by a whole number. Cross those out. X equals negative 2 over 5 times 3. And let me use brackets there. And so the final answer then, x equals negative 6 over 5. Why wouldn't you go to a decimal here? Because I didn't give you a decimal. That's why. Notice up here, I gave you a decimal, you go to a decimal. Down here, I give you fractions, you leave as a fraction. Okay, let us continue. Here, go ahead, do this. What's the opposite of divide? Times, times. I don't think that this is a subtraction. Just, okay, those brackets mean multiply. This side cancels, left side cancels, x equals, I gave you a decimal, what can you give me? Now you can give me a decimal. So I multiply, and my negative signs cancel out, so that is a positive 5.7 final answer. Okay. Next one here, this is divide by 1.3, what's the opposite? Times 1.3, do that to both sides. Go ahead now, I give you a decimal, you can give me decimal. Left side cancels, I get 1.3 times 0.8, that equals 1.04. Okay, I'm going to stop that here and then I'll continue in a second. This is a different question. It's not like all the rest. Let me just pause it and I'll join up the film after. Okay, this last question is a little bit different. Notice the very first two questions, what was the location of the x? The location of the x for the very first two questions was on the top. So you'll see here, top of the fraction line, top of the fraction line. Not so with this. Here, the x is in the bottom, it's in the denominator. So what I say is x is in the basement. All right, this is a different question. X is in the basement. It's cold, it's locked, it's scared, there's probably spiders, so you have to get out first. Right? X is going to try and bust out of the basement. So what do we see? Okay, so the basement, what we see is a divide by x. So what is the opposite of the divide by x? Well, we have to do the opposite. We have to do a multiply by x. And so I'm going to multiply the left side by x. But if I multiply the left side by x, what do I have to do with the right side? Also multiply by x. Here we go, little trickarooski. X's cancel. On the left side, I'm left with x. My equal sign matches up. And what do I have here on the right side? Oh yeah, 3x. So you have to get x out of the basement. You see a divide by x, you have to multiply by x, and don't forget to keep it equal. Boom, yeah. So now I can then solve it. This one is just like those others, exactly the same. So here I have 3 times x. I divide by 3, do the opposite of the timesing by 3. My 3's cancel. Boom. I'm left with x. Equal sign matches up. Oh yeah, so easy to follow. Makes sense when it's just on top of each other like that. Yes, do it. Don't just watch me. And then I have 6 divided by 3, which equals 2. This is exactly the same as x equals 2. I'm okay with you solving for x on the right side. No big deal. Okay, this is okay to have x on the right side. No big deal. You don't need to flip it. Okay, good. Those are all the questions we're going to do. Just a couple more practice ones here. Your homework on page 76 is going to be pretty simple. Again, this is not from your textbook. It's on the worksheet. So it's worksheet page 76. I have x plus 4 equals 2. What's the opposite of plus 4? Minus 4. Both sides, keep it equal. X equals negative 2. Here I have x minus 8. What's the opposite? Add 8, both sides, and get x equals, what is that? 15 minus 8, negative 7? No, yes, negative 7. There we go. Okay, now these questions are all the same, similar ones up above. Go ahead and answer as fast as you can. Divide by 3, x equals 4. Here, times by negative 5, x equals negative 50. You're welcome to cancel things out if you'd like. Here, I have opposite of divide by 1.5, timesing by 1.5, and x equals, gotta go to my calculator. Now, since I gave a decimal, you can give a decimal. That's fine. So we get here clear 3.8 times 1.5, and it's negative 5.7. Oh, what do you notice? X in the basement. It's cold, it's dark, it's scary. So times by x to get it out first. And I'm left with 12 equals 8x. Then I'm going to divide by 8, both sides. So x equals 12 divided by 8. Lowest terms, divide them both by 2. Actually, divide them both by 4. And so we get 3 over 2 equals x, lowest terms. Last one, do the opposite of divide by x, times by x, and so we get negative 2.3 equals 1.5x. Now I gave you decimals, what can you give me? Now you can give me a decimal. Not like letter D where I gave you a fraction, so you better be giving me a fraction. And 1.53 repeated with a negative sign and the repeat bar. There we go. So your homework is not from the textbook. Your homework is the worksheet, page 79. The worksheet is attached to the assignment. It's all there for you. Enjoy, good luck, have fun. Don't forget, if you need help, I'm on Google Meet. Come join.